Mark, hello, good morning. You're going to want to talk about the rugby.
You bet I am, hey. I mean, Saturday morning was a good thing for me. Two things happened. First of all, Argentina beat Australia. I have to say the softy, but I like it when anyone beats Australia. Not anything, okay?
Yes.
And then, of course, we thrashed New Zealand. Let's not make too much music about that because
Right,
comes around, goes around.
right.
But the best chirp I heard about that was this one, which said, when at first you don't succeed, as we didn't in the first test, try,
Right.
try, 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 try again, which is the six tries that we
Okay.
got. So we established the biggest margin that the All Blacks have ever been beaten by. And I have to say, the second half of rugby was the toughest, roughest rugby I've ever watched. And we were on the winning side as Baie lekker. Baie, thank you very much. Have a nice day. Okay, that was that.
Yes, good.
Yeah, okay, enough of that already. Let's not boast lest we get
Okay.
beaten.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but there's not
Things
everything
could
to
could really
celebrate.
turn upside down because Argentina would normally have been a sort of like shoe-in, but
Yeah,
now that they've beaten two of the biggest sides
yeah, yeah, yeah,
in
yeah.
the
Well,
field,
it's very
you have to
evenly
worry a little
poised.
bit. It is, yeah.
There's 2 points between the first and last on the rugby championship log. So the next games we need to win and they need to lose, and let's see how that goes. It's all happening in the next couple of weeks. I'll tell you
Okay.
what's not happening in the next couple of weeks, because it seems to have not been happening for lots and lots and lots of weeks in some little towns, is water. Water, water, nowhere. And
Yes.
it's all very well to have to go and fill up a bucket and this is but it goes beyond the convenience of a shower. It goes
Right.
into hospitals where they haven't got sufficient water for the doctors and other people to use the toilet or keep in a purified state, which comes through a system and all of those kinds of things. And so it's becoming a little bit of a national crisis. But I have to say, at municipal level, people are starting to stand up and say, no, had enough. They booed the mayor, the Joburg mayor, at a
Yes.
conference. He cancelled a TV interview for last night.
Right.
In Knysna, which is a beautiful little, if you like, tourist jewel of
Tourist town.
ours.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, they've dissolved the municipality.
Right.
Grahamstown. I've got to mention Grahamstown because my daughter went to university there, or so it be told. They don't work very hard at Rhodes University. It seems to me. Okay, they said
Just
they
from the
don't
outside.
overstudy almost. Just from
Yes,
the
yes.
outside, just saying. But that
Yes.
used to be a beautiful place. I used to go once a year to the Grahamstown Art Festival, whatever it was, and
Right.
it's in a state which I've just seen, which it couldn't host anything. So, but local elections a year away. Everyone who's got an interest, stand up and do something and get voted in. That's
Yeah,
my
yeah, yeah.
speech
You
for
know,
the
it
morning,
is.
Tim.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've just read a couple of days ago about the state of the recycling, water recycling plant in Cape Town, and it
Oh
sort of
yeah,
reminded me, that Cape Town was, 4 days or 4 weeks or something like that away from, the 0 hour, zero time, zero water for zero, um, and the so you would think
the water had
after
come
that
to
happens to
naught.
you. Yeah, I mean, you would think that after that happened, they
Yeah,
would put up a recycling plant in absolutely no time at all. And this is supposedly the South
as
Africa's
one
best run
does.
municipality. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You would think that having come so close that there would be urgency. Turns out not so much. 8 years later, the recycling plant's still not built. It is coming though. It's coming, but
Oh yeah.
uh,
No,
uh,
we've got a
um,
list.
it's sort
Yeah.
of like it's very frustrating. It's you've made this point before, but it is incredible how um, the what motivates action is crisis, not
Yeah.
not planning, or at least not in our case, or at least not in cases involving
Yeah.
government.
Yeah.
There's
Th-
they spend a lot of time talking about planning, but they never actually
Yeah.
implement the plan. It's a truism, I suppose. I mean, we've said it 100 times, but
It
anyway,
seems to me they do a lot of planning about talking as well. I mean, there's a conference every bloody weekend somewhere,
yeah, yeah, that's
a
right.
politically a grouping of things. But it's true. But it's true of all of us a little bit, hey? Procrastination until it's there's no more time.
Yeah,
I always revert to the old toothache thing. But perhaps there's there's a result that comes out of this. Desperation gives birth to innovation and calling in the right experts because there's no more time to mess around. Okay,
Yes.
it's now at that point, and maybe that's where we had to get to before people stopped talking nonsense and started actually getting experts as partners and getting things done. That's
Yeah.
been my hope for the last 18 months, man, is that we'll get to this point and do something about it. We first half is in place.
Right.
Um,
Yes. The
you
disaster
mentioned
part,
last
that's the
week,
easy part.
yeah, we got the disaster all
Sorry, carry
sorted
on.
out. I read in the paper, I think it was this morning in the Business Day, that the Fitch rating has come out and they BB minus
Right.
again, I think, which says a stable outlook, but there's always a but. I've always had arguments with people, particularly girlfriends, who have a but in the middle of a sentence. Okay, because you know that the first half of a sentence means nothing because it's been,
Yes, yes, yes.
denounced by the word but. Okay. And so the but in the Fitch rating is but vulnerable to default risk. Okay. Now,
Right.
when you go to the
That's
bank
quite a
as a
big but
company
when
or
butts as butts
yeah,
go.
there's
That's
quite
a
a big but where buts go. Yeah. And so default risk means, for anyone who's not familiar with it, is you've broken some rule under which you got the money. Okay, whether it's
right,
in your balance sheet or your income statement, you haven't got the right interest cover or the right asset cover or something, or you've got a
right.
covenant which you've breached, and that triggers the right for the lender to call on the money. Now, one of our big problems is that a lot of our money is guaranteed rather than as a result of us being bankable. That
Yes,
means that if it gets called, our absence of bankability will be exposed.
right.
So, we've borrowed more than we can afford. We are not bankable. I promised to write about this last week. I'm going to write about it this week because I've spent a lot of my early life in debt,
Right.
and you should know the hell what's going on in your life in detail if you want to
Yes.
survive indebtedness. What is your
Yes.
take on our state there?
It seems like a bit of a side issue, but the issue that I was writing about this week was about student debt. Because what's happened is that our trade minister has withdrawn a piece of legislation which would have allowed educational institutions to report for credit downgrade purposes student debt. Um,
Right, I
so
saw that. Yeah.
um,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
so no, student debt is not a big portion of the total debt book of
Mm.
South Africa. I mean, what do
Mm.
you think about this? I'll tell you, it's a more difficult decision than you might guess, because
Yeah,
there are
it's
arguments in
complicated.
favor of the students, right?
Yeah.
Because students just do stupid stuff. You know what I mean? And maybe on the first time they get into debt trouble, you need to cut them a little bit of slack.
Yeah, well,
And
if it is
also,
true,
yeah, carry on.
if it is true that the smartest amongst us are attending university or other
Yes.
educational institutions, then they
Yeah.
should kind of have the
If that's your
basics of,
premise,
they should kind of get the basics of earn X, O, Y, oops, okay? Because that's not a
right,
difficult sum to do, okay? But so essentially, if you allow students to borrow money and
right,
then you write it off, then you're essentially saying education is free. That is a big debate. But if education is free and you qualify for it on a merit basis, I'm kind of
right,
for it. But then let's
right.
do it in that way. Okay, don't pretend. And then what about the guys who did pay back their student loan? They actually pay for the education, and the guys who didn't don't. So you've got the
Yes,
worst crop getting the best treatment. That's the part that irks me. Okay, because I
exactly.
had
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah,
repay all my bloody student loans. Okay,
yeah.
and so, make the rules so that they're fair for everyone. Okay, education is free as a point of departure. Fine. Now, the only way you're going to get in, my friend, is if you pass on merit and you keep passing. Okay.
Right.
And so that'll be the test fail, not affordability, but ability. Then
Yeah,
I'm for
I
it.
mean, the other theoretical justification, which Minister Tower did actually mention, was
Mm,
that usually the people who are most vulnerable are
mm,
the kids from the poorest families,
yeah,
and the so uh, um, if you blacklist, or if you put somebody on a list which is a step towards blacklisting when they're
yeah.
kids. then you're exacerbating inequality. You're coming down hardest on
Yeah.
the people
So,
who most were.
so
But there's a
I,
counter
yeah,
argument, and which was you
yeah,
were talking about too. So I've just used the word "but" or very important.
yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
um, the
Negating your whole first speech
Yes,
there.
yes, yeah. So you forget about all of
Yeah.
that nice chatter.
Yeah,
the
yeah.
and the but is really because this is such a good example of moral hazard. Because as you
Mm,
say, you are essentially advantaging the worst people,
mm,
or the least compliant, shall we say,
yeah,
and
yeah,
disadvantaging the best, and also you're making it more difficult for everybody because it's much more difficult to grant loans to students if you know that the consequences of them not paying it back are going to be diminished. So it's just an interesting argument, and I think it's interesting that the ANC has once again come down on the side of populism rather than on the side of responsibility. I mean,
yeah,
that
yeah.
is my issue
But
with all of this, right?
yeah, no, I think we're on the same page. So I think just make the rules so that they reward effort. Money is just a medium of exchange, man. It shouldn't be the decider of anything. So if you get rewarded for every, I mean, my son's in the fortunate enough position that I'm his banker. Okay.
Right.
Or we are his banker, and so but he's got some pretty serious covenants, like don't fail, but okay, because if you do, that's the end of that movie. There's no gap here in my vocabulary. Okay, and
How
so
much
and
do you
so
charge him? Do you
so
charge him
uh,
interest?
no, I charge him that threat. That's all I charge
Uh,
him is that
oh,
threat.
really?
I'd love him to
Okay.
get an education. Yeah. So my thing is simple. You go there, you do well, you stay, and you and have some fun. But if you don't get the grades, mate, you don't get the cash, and that's
I
final.
have to say, I have to say, I'm incredibly bitter about all of this because when I was at university, my father was such a schnoop that he wouldn't give me a cent, not 1 cent. Um, so I had to take loans. Every
He didn't realize the somewhat hidden potential that you are, Tim. You see, that's the thing.
no,
Is it? No,
no.
I
He said I could go to university, and but I had to go to the bank, and I had to get a bank loan to cover the fees, and then I had to work at the damn library and at the racetrack,
good
right
for
through
him. I
university,
had the same
and
rules. I had to borrow money, and
right.
it's not the worst thing
And
that
it
it.
was
And I
I
think
had to
we've given
eventually
that
pay
enough
back.
of our time.
No, no. I just cannot make one last thing because I'm whining
Yeah,
here,
go
and I
for it,
want to
you
get this out.
poor thing. Yeah, yeah, get it out of
No,
off your
but
chest. Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
Are they
I paid
forgiving
back my.
students today? But did they forgive me? No, they
I
fucking
no,
me. They
not in
didn't. Yeah,
my day.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
I paid back my last student loan when I was 32. I mean, it was, it
Oh,
was,
you were
I paid
lucky.
back
I was
every
still
month.
at you. Yeah, I wish I'd
I
paid
was
back my
lucky.
last student loan when I was 32. Yeah, okay, enough
All
already.
right.
Okay.
Okay.
Talking about paying things back, I tell you what, I've never had more trouble in my life getting a refund. It's
Really?
easy when you have to pay for
That's a
something like a
shocker.
reservation or something. That's easy. They take your money, otherwise they don't deliver the goods. When you need it back, it's
Right.
forms and proof, and I'm not going to belabor that point.
You know
Yeah.
what I don't understand about purchasing? There seem to be some purchases that you make where they give you the product and you make the purchase, and that happens simultaneously, right?
Mm,
Um,
mm,
so but there are some things where even if you are paying full price, you pay for
mm.
it and you don't get it until later. You know what I mean?
Don't get me
Which is
started on that.
okay. No,
Don't let's go there because I'm in the middle of a fight about that where I paid a
okay,
deposit, so-called deposit, and I don't get any
right.
interest on my deposit. And yeah, yeah, that's good. That's the force that we have to deal with, because we are the little people.
Yeah,
Anyways,
that's right.
I want to talk about something that's fundamentally changed, which is longevity. Okay, and its consequences for all sorts of things. Now, let's just talk about people who retire and who were,
Okay.
by some estimated mortality, going to live for 5 to 10 years and are now living for 20 to 25 years. Okay, If
Right.
you look at the fees that retirees are being charged for someone to manage the assets in their pension fund, and let's call those fees somewhere between 2 and 3%, and I'm sure I'll get an avalanche of protest around it, but that's what it is. And you take the return on your assets to be, let's modestly call it 7% or 8%.
Right.
3% is like almost a half of your return. Okay. Now, that didn't matter when you as much when you were going to live for 5 to 8 years, okay, after you retired. But the
Yes, that's right.
power of compounding over 25 years has the effect of you giving away, literally giving away for no effort, something like 30 to 40% of your capital value, okay, over that
That's
long
amazing.
period of time. And that's a lot. And why do I say you're doing it for nothing? Because what really happens at that stage of your life is the focus is on asset allocation. So, you want 20% in gilts, 20% in properties, 30% in an equity index. And these things are all instantly available to the retail person. They don't require an advisor. I think there's going to be huge change. I want to be part of it.
Okay.
Take that,
I
sports
mean,
lovers. Yeah.
yeah. No, no, I mean, first of all, can I just say that if you are being charged more than 1.5% by your advisors collectively, then you're being
Mm.
ripped. I mean, that's. I think that's the maximum you should be paying. If
Yeah, I've spoken to people who are getting charged more. And again, the most innocent, the most financially less astute are the ones that are being preyed upon because they
yeah,
don't do compound interest calculations and things of that nature. And essentially, here's the big change. When you're 65 years old, you're at the beginning of another investment journey, not at the end of one. You've got a
right,
20-year landscape ahead of you. And that's a
yes,
long-term investment strategy that's required. Anyway,
yeah.
I think there's an opportunity for everyone here to get better
No, I
things
mean there
cheaper.
are index funds investments that you can
You
make
can
that
do
are
it yourself.
extremely cheap. You can do it yourself. Yeah,
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 you can do
yeah.
it yourself. You
But
can do it yourself.
even
I don't want to plug our company, but you can do it yourself, mate.
yes, yes, yeah.
Easily. Yeah.
N- Exactly, but
Okay.
strangely enough, even people who know that they can do it themselves, like me, for example,
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
I still
Yeah.
have a financial advisor who's very good, and I appreciate her work, and she's very attentive. And the question is, why do I still do that? Why do I, and the
Yeah.
answer is,
No,
I think
I think
that
you need an independent or objective advice. Yeah.
exactly, and all of my tiny retirement investments are in managed funds. That I have, which I sort of do on the outside, but generally speaking, these are all managed funds. And generally speaking, the managed funds that I've invested in have outperformed the index. But
Yeah.
the essential problem here is that markets have just been very strong for a very long time
Yeah.
with very limited downturns, and the consequence is when you are earning 7 or 8%, giving up 1.5% doesn't seem like a
Yes.
terrible deal. But wait
Well,
until we have 3 years of downturn.
yeah.
That 1.5% is going to feel very expensive.
Yeah, but
Um,
but even 1.5%, if you're earning 7%, okay,
yeah,
is
no, no,
20% of your return. It's 20% of your return. Okay.
I know,
One and a
uh,
half out of seven that you're giving
yeah,
away for here's another Marxism, if you like, a Marxism, which is
yeah,
that,
yes,
at that stage in your life, it's not about choosing boats, it's about choosing streams. Okay. you know,
right,
People ask me, what should I do with my money? I say, well, I can give you some guidance as to what your asset classes should be, what streams you should allocate how much to. But if you're at 65 or 72 and you're starting to look for boats, like, the
right.
next big performer or the next, that's a risk return equation, which I'm afraid you must leave behind. Okay. Because the only way the less informed masses get to want to buy into Nvidia or Bitcoin or whatever the latest fad is when
Right.
everyone else has finished buying. And I've got another, little bit of wisdom to offer to everyone. Never start drinking when everyone else is drunk. Okay.
Yes,
So
yes.
Okay. And so be careful and think, rethink the implications of your longevity in terms of what you pay
Right.
for healthcare, in terms of what you pay for life insurance, in terms of what you pay for someone to manage your assets and all of those good things, because it's not what it was and it's still being priced that way. That's my
Yeah.
advice to the people out
And
there.
and bargain, and bargain. Say, I think this is too much.
Yeah,
Don't be shy. And have a look at the end of the year at your investments and the full-on costs, all of the costs of,
yeah,
because there's some costs which are hidden inside these funds, right? Because
yeah,
their buying and selling is, comes at a cost too. Um,
yeah.
the and if your total cost is more than 1.5%, then you're paying too much.
Well,
That is my
you started it. You started trouble. Yeah, you know you you've started some trouble putting a number to it. Anyway, people, it's nice and warm where I'm living. Summer's back. The garden's looking colorful. Have a
right.
nice
And you've
week.
got water.
And I have water.
Excellent. Oh well, this is good. This is
Yeah.
the blessings of the of
My
spring.
bubble's okay for now. Yeah, so it's terrible that we even have to have this bloody discussion.
I know it is. It
Okay,
is. All right, people. Thanks very much
have a good one.
for listening up.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Cheers,
Ciao,
guys.
ciao. Bye.
Yeah.